Okay, dokie. Looks like you got quite a crew there.
All right, Dan, I've given you the host.
Okay, good.
So everybody, well, first of all, Dan, we are in New York, and there's a couple of interesting people here. They wanted to do, we're going to do the wave for you.
You know what, JC, I got to turn my mic on. I can hardly hear you.
You can't hear me?
Yeah, I think it's my settings here. Hold on just a second.
All right, you don't need to hear me. I don't have much to say. How about that?
You know, hold on just a second. Now I think I can do it.
How about now?
Wait, it's my settings. All right, now I'm good. I'm good now.
All right, so like I was saying, so they wanted to do the wave for you. So go ahead, look in the background.
Okay.
So Dan, let me tee it off. So this is our first inaugural event we're calling All In. We know that on the West Coast there's this beautiful, spectacular event called Intentionality. Well, we're coming, and this is our first one. So everybody in the room here is executive director and above. Everybody that's not in the room is either lost in this building or out on the road. But tomorrow we have our main event. So Dan, recently at Sundance, and then with some of our top leaders, you did this amazing talk that we've actually decided to kind of base the whole day tomorrow on. Mm-hmm. It's that whole idea of running through the systems check, getting unstuck, and things like that. So we wanted to gather everybody here tonight to hear that amazing talk for you or from you, and we'll let you take it away, buddy.
Okay, well, great. Well, thank you guys for inviting me. Sounds like you got quite a crew there, and it's my honor to be with everybody tonight. I want to give you kind of a background on this talk. I've been in this industry a long time. I've coached lots of people over the years, and one of the things that you have to look at is you have to look at systems and systematic ways of watching your business. And a lot of people talk about a system, having a system, but what they really are referring to is a library of tools, right? A library of tools and documents and videos and that sort of thing. That's part of the system, but that's not the only part of a system. A system is, you do things in a systematic way. So a lot of times we know that we have coaches that sometimes, they get stuck, right? Sometimes we get stuck. Anybody ever get stuck here? I can see all, so you can show me. Yeah. Okay. We all get stuck from time to time. And, we can, if we're a good diagnostician, we can kind of figure some of those things out. We don't want to make any assumptions. We ask a lot of questions, but if we're really paying attention and we do it in a step-by-step manner, we can pretty much find out where somebody might be stuck. And they might be stuck because of a concept, or they might be stuck because of a fear. They might be stuck because of a technique, all right? Or they might be stuck because they don't have a strategy or goals. And so when you draw out your organization, or even if you look at your own self-analysis of your business, you can go through and look at each of these things and say, where am I in relation to this specific topic? So what I'm going to do is I have a PowerPoint, but it's only 2 slides. But I'm going to put it up because I think it'll be helpful for you. So actually, I might put it up now, and I might put it up at the end. We'll see. So let me ask you something. You have a coach. You sponsored somebody, and they've been in the business a while, and they're not moving. What would be the first thing you might think, or first couple things that you might think of that might be holding them back?
Yes.
What would be one of the things that you would look at?
Skills.
Are they talking to people?
Are they talking to people? Yes, speak up.
Yeah, those are all part of it. But where would you, remember I said it's systematic, where would you start in a hierarchy.
List. Did they make a list?
They need a list. That's part of it, but that's not the first thing.
Basically a plan.
Oh, they're
Yeah, knowing their why. Now, JC actually made me aware of something that, I mean, that was kind of intuitive, but was not on my list, where somebody's been around a while, and that would be, where are they on their health journey, right? So sometimes people get stuck. Why? Because they gain 10 pounds or 15 pounds and they feel incongruent. You know anybody like that? Does that ever happen to you?
Yep.
Huh? Anybody in here? Like, it's amazing to me that sometimes just a little bit of extra weight will prevent people from talking to other people because they don't feel they're walking the walk. So that might be the first place we'd start. The first place where I generally start with people, though, is what do they want? What are their reasons for doing this? What's their why? Okay, and because if they don't have a why, it's all academic, isn't it? Right? There's no compelling reason for them to make a shift in their behavior if they don't have a compelling why. So what could you do for folks? Well, how could you help awaken, or we call it help them awaken their intrinsic motivation? How would you do that?
Find out what their dreams are.
But what would you ask them?
Why did they become a coach?
Yeah, you'd want to start out with something. Remember, your job it's not a one up, one down thing. Your job is to come alongside them and support them, right? To be empathetic with them, not to be the hero in this situation. You're the coach. So what you'd want to say to them is something like, and a lot of times this is done best if you can do it face to face. Of course, with Zoom and all this interactive stuff now, we can go face to face across the country with Zoom. But it's often, and you can read people because you can see them. That's the good thing about Zoom. But it's always best if you can do it face to face. It's not generally very good doing it over the phone. That's kind of like your third option, okay? So you might say something like, hey, John, I wanted to talk to you about your business. And, take a look, because I really want to be able to support you and help you grow it. But I need to, find out where your head's at. So let me ask you, why are you involved in this? What are you hoping to accomplish by being involved in Optavia? Right? Or you might say to them, John, when we first got started, you were really excited and you were talking about potentially leaving your job, maybe buying a new house. Are those things still important to you, right? Because if somebody doesn't have a goal, if they don't have a compelling reason, they're not gonna move. So that's basic human nature. They're not gonna. And what we sometimes try to do is we try to be the hero coach. We try to tell them what to do before they're ready to hear what we have to say. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
No? Okay. I'm looking for feedback. You guys are looking at me on a TV screen. I see about 8 or 10 of you here. So I can see your faces, which is good for me. But what you're trying to do is find out to the heart what's really going on. What do you really want, right? Because that's part of it. That might not. Somebody may really want something, and the thing that's holding them back is they're just afraid, right? Or the thing that's holding them back is they don't have a list. Or the thing that's holding them back is they're all over the place. They don't have a strategy, right? Or the thing that's holding them back is they're lousy at presenting, or they're lousy at a follow-up, or they're lousy at their invite. There's different things. Or maybe it's something to do with their personality. We're going to get all this stuff. But the first place is, why are you doing it? Why is it important to you? And again, it depends on where you are with the coach. With the new coach, you might say to them, because I don't, with a brand new coach, generally I don't get into a heavy goal setting with them until they start moving forward. I want to find out generally what they want, though, and I might ask a question like, so Mary, why are you excited about Optavia? What are you hoping to accomplish with Optavia? Are you interested in making money? Are you interested in helping people? What is it that really drives you? I'm interested in doing both, quite frankly. I said, well, okay, well, great. Well, do you have an idea how many, you have some people on your heart right now you want to help? How many people would you like to help this month? What kind of income would you like? Well, gee, I don't know. I'd like to make maybe some extra money. Well, let's see if we can quantify that. How much would that be? Oh, I don't know. Maybe $500 a month. That's great. Well, definitely we can help you do that. What would get you excited? Would an extra $2,000 or $3,000 a month get you excited? Well, yeah. Well, do you know what it would take to make $2,000 or $3,000 in this business? Not really. Well, yeah. What if I told you it would take about maybe 18, 19, 20 people that you would be supporting, and you'll make another $2,000, $2,500 a month? Really? That's what they usually say. Really? Yeah. And I'd say, and that would basically, you want to do that. I mean, I've had people do it in a month. I've had people do it in a couple of months. I've had people take a couple of years to do it. But typically when somebody decides to do it, it takes about 1 to 3 months. So if you want to get that done this month, we could do it, or next month, or the next 3 months, if that's something that you're interested in. So all of a sudden, what I'm doing is I am giving them, quantifying for them what the effort would be in order to achieve the goal. That would be somebody very basic, right? It's kind of like, it's a similar thing, and this is just kind of off the topic, but a similar thing would be, when you're talking to somebody and they go, I don't know if I could be a coach. I don't think I would have enough time, right? This is when you're doing a follow. I don't have enough time. I said, well, that may be true. You may not have enough time. Let me ask you something. If you were to do it, what would be the reasons for doing it? Would you be interested in making more money? Yeah. What kind of money would you be interested in? I don't know, $500, $1,000. What would get you excited? And I said, what if I were to, let me ask you this. If I was willing to invest time with you, and and you apprentice with me, and let's say in the next 3 to 6 months, we could help you develop an income of maybe another $2,000 or $3,000 a month. Would you be able to find time to do that? Would that be worth your time? See, so it's all here. What I'm saying to you is that in a decision tree, people are going to weigh the pros and the cons, right? So on one side, they're thinking of all the reasons why they can't do it or shouldn't do it or don't want to do it. And the other side are all the reasons why they should do it, right? So if we're focusing on the negative side of that balance scale, they're going to move to that balance scale and understand basic human nature is people are they're tuned into their own self-interests, right? WIIF, I always call it WIIFM, what's in it for me? That's what they're tuned into. So if you know that about people, you always put things in why it's in their best interest. So I'm loading the balance scale with the reasons why they do it. Because on one side, is effort. The other side is reward. On one side is fear. The other side is faith, right? So you have to think about in terms of what can I say to this person that will get them to connect this business with their goals and their desires, whatever it is that they want in their life. So that's the first thing outside of their health that I would look at is what's their why? How do we ask the right questions to get the right why? Now, once you have a why, then what do you need after you have a why? What's the matter?
I think my email is popping up every now and then. Let's get it.
Okay.
Last day of the month, Dan.
Oh yeah, I know. I know. I've been getting buzzed and texts and emails, and everybody's going crazy this month. So okay. So Once you know their why in relation to the business, because you need to connect their why with effort in the business, then what's the next step?
Game plan.
What's that?
Have a game plan or a strategy.
Absolutely. Fantastic. That's exactly the right answer. They have to have a strategy, right? So when you're coaching people, you're coaching your senior coaches, for example, what are we doing every month with our senior coaches? What tool do we use?
Maps.
We use a map, right? But here's the thing that sometimes what happens is people disconnect the map from the big picture. Meaning that, okay, the map is only a 1 month snapshot, right? It's a 1 month snapshot. But it's in relation to what's the game plan for the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, year, right? So here we are in November, and there's kind of like some things that we look at as we turn the corner of the year. You know, where are we going to be in January? Where are we going to be in March? Where are we going to be at convention, right? Where do we want to be in a year from now? Where do we want to be by Sundance, for example? So the map is a strategic plan for this month in relation to what the goal, what the bigger goal is. So for example, let's use you guys as an example. Let's say you're sitting here at ED and you have one senior coach, okay? So what would be a reasonable goal for convention? It's going to be different for everybody, but what would you say a reasonable goal would be, an achievable goal by convention?
Somebody said integrated regional.
Integrated regional, okay. So that would be a good goal. Other people might say global, right? With a FIBC structure, meaning you're running 6,000. You might not be integrated global, but you're an FIBC with a global pin. Does that make sense? Am I going too fast on that? You know what I mean? You're running 6,000 and you got 5 ED legs, right? So that you wouldn't be an integrated global. You would be a global that has a fully integrated business coach structure, right? That would be a goal for somebody. But the point is, here you are with one senior coach, and you're running, let's say you're running $7,200 volume. Well, your map, when you fill out your map, you got to ask the question, okay, where do I want to be in 3 months, 6 months, and a year? Because that map then should be your stepping stone for this month on the way to those bigger goals. Does that make sense? Okay. Because otherwise, you know what the map can be? Basically, I've seen the map be kind of everybody kidding themselves. You know what I'm talking about? It's the same map every month. Anybody got any coaches like that?
Yep.
Sit down with them and they have the same map every month. Well, you're going through the motions, but nobody's telling the truth. Is that too hard?
No.
Is that too hard? But that's the truth. Isn't that the truth?
Yes.
They know it and you know it, so you got to get to the truth. But the point is, you find out what their goal, find out what their motivation is, their intrinsic motivation, help them with a game plan. That's number 2. So somebody could be stuck because they don't have a dream, or they haven't connected to the dream to work, or they don't have a game plan that they can execute on. So they have their dream board up, you know, and they say they're going to do all these great things, but if you look at their calendar, they are not doing anything, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So the map is designed to be a working document where, yes, you set up the strategy, the game plan for the month, but also you check at the middle of the month, right? Right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's the next thing would be the map. So then, let's say they have a dream and they have a map. Okay. So they're not doing the business. Okay. What would the next thing be? What would you be checking on next? Well, what do you need to grow your business?
Talk to people.
You need people.
Yep.
So what's your list look like? Right? Here's the big mistake a lot of mentors make is they don't work with their coaches enough on their lists. And a list isn't a one-time event. It's something you start and you keep adding to, right? So you got, some of you have talented people on your team. Some of you are very talented. And if I ask you, what's your list look like? You got 8 people on it and you don't want to call them because then you'll be out of names. You think I'm kidding? I've been at this a long time, man. That's what the way people are. So not only, so if you work, you ever have this situation, you get somebody that's really excited, a new coach is really excited, and they're going to tear it up. And then 3 weeks later, they're not calling you. They're not answering your calls. They're not excited anymore. Well, that could be a whole myriad of things that's going on there, right? But one of them could be is that they thought they were going to build the business with their 5 closest friends and they weren't interested. And now they've gone and they've, you know, they went AWOL on you, right?
Yep.
Okay, that could be the situation. So that's why it's very important that when you start a new coach off, that you take the time to help them generate a list. But you then revisit the list, because there's various ways that there's a lot of different systems out there that you can add names to your list. If you look at social media, a lot of people like social media because it's a way that they can reach beyond themselves. And, you know, they do 3 by 3 by 3 and they pay attention, right? They're going to add names. Other people go, I don't want anything to do with social media. Does that mean I can't do the business? Absolutely not. You just have to find another farm system to add names to your list. It could be BNI. It could be meetup groups. It could be, you know, Chamber of Commerce. It could be learning how to meet people you don't know. You know, learning how to do a warm contacting, not cold contacting, but warm contacting, which is a skill everybody needs to know. Because a lot of the times you'll find yourself in a situation like on an airplane or whatever, you'll be by somebody, it's the perfect person to talk to. But that, so if you check with somebody and they don't have any names on their list, what then do you work on? What do you work on? If they don't have any names on their list, what do you work on? This is not a hard question. You help them create a bigger list. So you get out that document that I wrote, that's the who do you know sheet. You know what I'm talking about? It's like because everybody knows 600 people on average. They just haven't written them all down. Why haven't they written them down? Don't all answer at once here, guys. Why haven't they written them down? What?
They think they don't know.
I can't hear that.
They think they don't know, she said.
Well, what happens is they prejudge. You know what they do? They prejudge, don't they? And the reason they prejudge is because it could be a lot of reasons why they prejudge. It could be concepts they have. They don't want to be that guy, right? Or they might say, I don't know that person that well. Or they might say, how do I approach somebody about the program? I don't know them that well, but they're overweight and I feel uncomfortable about doing that. You realize that's all skill. I mean, all of those things have to do with mindset, but also with skill. I mean, all those things are solvable, right? But the point is, if people don't have names on their list, they're like an artist that has, you know, they have a canvas, but they don't have any paint. They don't have anything to work with, right? So one of the things as a leader, as you're moving forward, if you're looking to develop teams and organizations, one of the most important things that you can do is learn how to fill that funnel. It's the fun. That's what drives our business. It's you know, I don't want to sound crass, but the raw material of our business is people. You know, and it's not like, you know, we never manipulate people, but we have to share what we have with them. And if people don't have names on their list, if you go back to the people, you say, why isn't Bill moving right now? He's very sharp. He's very articulate. He loves the business. Had a great story. He tells me he wants to quit his job. Why isn't Bill? What does his list look like? Well, Bill's got 3 names on his list, or the names are in his head, right? Okay, so the names have got to get on a document of some site, either electronic or on a piece of paper somewhere. But without names, a person can't build a business. It's just there's no ammunition to build the business. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so we talked about a dream, we talked about a strategy, we talked about a list. Now, once you have names on a list, what's the next step?
Start connecting with them.
The health assessment.
You gotta say something to them.
You gotta call them. You gotta approach them. You just don't walk up and do a health assessment on. I mean, health assessment's important, but we got to set the appointment up to do the health assessment, right? All right. So you're checking their skills. You're checking off what they're and so what's the biggest mistake a brand new coach makes when they get started?
Throws up on people.
They throw up on people. Yeah, and by the way, every time I ask that question, that's the answer I get 90% of the time. They throw up on people. So we all know what that means. They talk way too much. So if that's true, and I'm your coach, and I know that could happen to you, then I've got to teach you what to say and what not to say. Because what not to say is as important as what to say. Okay? Because here's what happens. Wow, John, you look really, or Mary, you look fantastic. What's going on? Oh, I've been on this program. I've lost weight. Wow, how's it work? How much does it cost? What's the food like? And all of a sudden, Mary's doing some kind of random, really bad presentation. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Okay, and it's probably happened to you. I bet it's happened to you when you're brand new, right? You got it. You were excited, and you just threw up on somebody, and they got a little bit and think they made a decision based on the inaccurate information you gave them. You know why? Because that person, that potential candidate, was leading the conversation. So what do we do in that case? We have to teach a new coach what to say. So for a brand new coach, the skill is to connect the potential client with you, right? You are going to be their mentor, right? And they're going to apprentice with you in the beginning, and you're going to do 3 to 5, maybe 7 health assessments with them, right? Right? Are we on the same page, guys?
Yes.
Thank you. I need feedback. My self-image isn't very good. I need feedback. So yeah. So what we're doing is we have to make sure. So how could we ensure, to a degree, you can't control everything. You certainly can't control other people. But how can we increase our odds to the positive with our client? What could we do? Or our new coach with their potential clients. What could we do for them?
Set up 3-way calls.
Yep.
Well, we got to set up a 3-way call. But what does that client have to do before they set up the 3-way call?
Get a person to set up the 3-way call with them.
They have to know how to make the approach.
Right.
So we have to teach them how to approach. We have to teach them what to say and what not to say. And we also have to teach them how to control a conversation by teaching them how to answer a question with a question. Okay, because that's how you maintain control on a conversation. Well, how much does it cost? Well, that's a great question, and quite frankly, right now I don't know how much it's going to cost for you, because we'd have to determine whether one of our programs would be appropriate for you. But the thing is, Mary, I'm brand new at this. I'm really excited about it. I don't want to blow it for you. What I would like to do is connect you to my coach. I'll have her explain the whole program to you. And it would be just totally exploratory. It may or may not be. We'll do a health assessment with you, and then you can determine whether this is something you might be interested in. And then we can figure out the cost. But just in general, essentially it's cost neutral. So it's not going to cost you any more than you're currently paying for food. Okay, what does the food taste like? Tastes great. But here's the thing. Rather than have me go into a lot of detail on how the program works, I'm brand new. I don't want to blow it for you, because I want to make sure that you have an adequate understanding of what this, so you can make the right decision for you. I'm putting it in their best interest. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I always put it in their best interest. And so what I'd like to do is connect you with my coach, and you're going to love my coach. You know, my coach is JC. He's a great guy. You're going to love him. And basically, what we'll do is it'll be very casual. We'll do a simple interview. We'll do a health assessment. We'll explain to you how our program works, and then if that makes sense to you, we can determine what the next step is. So you teach them what to say and what not to say. But when you teach them what not to say, you got to teach them how to answer a question with a question. Okay? Because if they don't, they go down a spiral hole. You know what I mean by that, a spiral hole? Because one question goes to another. Now, an important concept in being effective is to separate the approach from the presentation. You know, have you ever done this? Have you ever called somebody up and they, you know, caught them off guard, and then you found out they were interested, and then you just went ahead and tried to do a whole presentation on them at the same time? How'd it work out for you? It generally doesn't. Occasionally it will work out, and occasionally there are opportunities for you to do this, whereby you you might be on an airplane, for example. Okay, I break that rule on the airplane sometimes, but typically what I'll do is I'll find out if they're interested. It's like, and also, by the way, you have to teach your clients how to answer those questions, because it really starts with the client, right? So Mary, what's going to happen is you start, as you start losing weight, people are going to be noticing you, and they're going to be asking you. Now, when that happens, here's the best way to answer that, because you're really not qualified to give the answer to that person. What you say to them is this. You say, listen, I'll tell you, this has been the most exciting thing for me. I'm losing weight. I'm getting healthier. But look, I'm not the person you need to talk to. You need to talk to my coach, okay? Because I want to make sure you have an adequate understanding. Or you teach them, answer a question with a question. They say, wow, you look really great. What are you doing? Well, thanks for the compliment. Can I ask you why you're asking me that? Are you interested in getting healthy? Right? Because what happens sometimes with a client or a coach is somebody gives a little bit of interest, and they automatically assume they're the person interested in going on the program. So the point is you separate the approach from the presentation. So let's review. We have, after we get the health dirty thing out of the way, what's their goal? What's their dream? What's their motivation? What are their reasons? What's their goal / strategy? Do they have a game plan? Do they have a list of names to talk to? Is it ongoing? Do they know how to approach somebody? And by the way, as you get more skilled in your journey as a leader, your skill set on approaching should improve, right? Now, how can you get it better? How can you improve your approach ability? Your ability to approach people?
Yes. Practice.
Practice. You know how I got good at it? I taught people. Back in the day, I was so scared to pick up the phone. It wasn't funny. And I didn't have many names on my list. I'm really talking from total authenticity when I know where these steps are. And people say, wow, you can really lay on a good approach, Dan. Well, heck, I've been doing it a long time. Okay. And the reason I got good at it was because I taught it a lot. And also I did it a lot, right? It's like, part of that on approaching, because these steps are the same for approaching people about the trilogy, right? So if you approach somebody about the trilogy, hey, JC, this is Dan. How are you doing? How are things going, man? Hey, listen, you got a second to talk? Yeah. I don't know whether you knew it or not, but I want to tell you something exciting that's happened with me. Recently, I went on a program. I got healthy. I lost a bunch of weight. And as a result of that, I decided to kind of pay it forward and become a coach. And my business right now, there's so much opportunity that I can't handle it all. So I'm actually looking to expand my business. I'm looking to partner up with somebody that's sharp and ambitious, that has a good work ethic, that, that likes people. And I thought of you. I don't know if it'd be something that you'd be interested in or not, but if you're open, I'd love to sit down with you and kind of review what I'm doing, let me interview you a little bit, and we'll see whether or not there's something here mutually beneficial. Would you like to do that, JC? Okay. See, so now, I mean, I'm going pretty fast. I mean, I just made that up. Okay. But what I know is that what I know intuitively, and as a leader, you want to know intuitively, is that a conversation, there are specific, there's specific structure to a phone call. Okay, and that starts with hello, introducing yourself. Do you have a minute to talk? Let me tell you why I'm calling. You tell them your story, and then you ask them if they're open to taking a look at what you're doing. May or may not be for you. Then you set up the appointment and you get off the phone. That's the structure. It doesn't change. I mean, the words change, but the structure doesn't change. It's just like when you do a health assessment. Now I'm getting into presentation, but when you do a health assessment, the worst kind of presentation is a random presentation where you jump from here to here and all over the place. Because what are clients, potential clients, hearing when they hear that kind of a presentation? They're hearing sell, sell, sell. Because you're selling and telling versus sharing and caring. Now, we baked into the health assessment the empathetic questions. We made it easy for coaches, even rookie coaches, to be good at it because we've asked the right questions. So let's go through our stages. We have the dream. We found out the reason. We have a game plan. We're adding names to the list. We checked on their approach, because if you have somebody making a lot of calls and they're not succeeding, they are doing something wrong with either their mindset, their posture, or their words that they're saying is wrong, and that's really discouraging for somebody to make a lot of calls. So that's where we want to check their skill set. So let's assume we go through all of those. They're all green lights. Now we get down to the presentation. What do I mean by a presentation? Presentation is a set time when you are explaining whatever you're offering. So a presentation could be a health assessment along with, the story of the 5 and 1 and the 4 components, right? That's a presentation. When you share the opportunity to become a coach and you talk about the trilogy, that's a presentation, right? Now, there's lots of different ways you can present. But if you don't look, there's tools that you can use to present, right? I mean, we've got recorded PowerPoints. We've got that sketch video that JC did as a presentation. Different things that we have that we can use in our arsenal to present. But if you don't have a rock solid presentation that you can duplicate, you broke your cookie cutter. You understand what I just said? You understand what that means? Because if you don't know how to do a presentation, then guess what? Nobody on your team does. Okay? And guess what happens? Your business stops. It stalls because it's all now dependent upon personality and not based on something that's duplicable. And we tend to, it's funny, we tend to complicate some things that we get comfortable with, and we tend to avoid the things that we're uncomfortable with to learn how to do. That makes sense? Did you follow what I said? He's shaking his head. You know what I mean by that? It means that, okay, so we get used to the things that we do all the time, and we keep layering more and more stuff on there because we think that's going to move the dial. There's only 2 things that move the dial in our business, and that's acquiring and supporting clients and sponsoring and mentoring coaches. They're the only 2 things that move your business, that cause it to grow. So we want to be very good at the things that cause our business to grow, and one of them is to be really good at a presentation. Okay, and so you know that this goes back to, you know, I came out of the old network marketing industry, and it was that, and in some ways that, you know, we're not that, you know, and when we created the model, we definitely didn't want to do that, but there are elements of our business that have some things in common, and in those businesses, we make sure we were really good at the approach and presentation. Okay, making sense? Is that making sense?
Mhm.
I don't want to get it. And by the way, JC, how much time do I have?
Like 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, I'll wrap it up and try to get it done in 10.
They said as much as you want.
Okay. Well, yeah, but you have other people come, right?
No.
No, we're good.
We have some stuff to set up for tomorrow, but if you want to go over some of the income buckets and stuff, that'd be cool.
No. I'm not done with the diagnosis yet. I'm only halfway through.
Yeah, so give us the diagnosis and then tell us.
Yeah. I wasn't going to go on the income buckets tonight because I'll hopefully get you fired up, and then I'll put you to sleep if I go through that.
As much as you'll offer us.
Okay. All right. So, but does that maybe, so what, you know, maybe, and one of the things the company is doing now, we're creating a unified training system, but it's not just the training, it's not just a library of information. Though you use tools in your business to augment what you're doing, right? Right. So like if we have, you know, if you have a tool, like you could say Becca Tinter's trilogy presentation, which is short, that's a great tool for an introduction, right? To introduce somebody to this. It's also a great tool to use as a follow-up, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you look at what do you have in your arsenal that you can use, and hopefully when we get down to Florida here for this ED event that Dr. A and I are doing for a select group of folks, well, you guys have all been invited to that. Not everybody on our team obviously was invited to that, because we wanted to make it a little bit more intimate, and we want to make sure that the cookie cutter, people understand the cookie cutter. But part of a big part, what the biggest rate limiting step in your business is what? What's the thing that that causes the business to grow the fastest? What's the thing that causes it to grow the fastest?
Health coaches.
Health coaches. So doesn't it make sense then that we should be really good at learning a presentation to bring coaches in?
Yes.
And doesn't it make sense that we should be really good at teaching our coaches how to do it?
Yes.
So when I first came into this industry, I was really shy. And the primary thing we did in those days is I did a lot of business presentations. I would go to people's houses and I would, you know, set up a board and draw circles, right? That's what I did. I was scared to death to do it. And, but I overcame that because why did I overcome it? Because my dream was bigger than my fear. I was willing to overcome my fear because I had a big enough dream. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what I did was I figured that out in the first 2 weeks I was in this industry. I went to my mentor and he told me that. I said, that makes a lot of sense. So what I did, I went and recorded his presentation. I wrote it all out. In fact, that was back in the day when we had cassette tapes. Some of you don't remember them. You weren't around. But we used to have these cassette tapes, and I would, you know, I have my cassette tape, and I'd listen to Jerry, and then I'd hit pause, and I'd back it up, and I would repeat exactly what he said. And then I'd play it again, and if I didn't get it quite right, I'd stop, and then I would repeat it, back it up, and go again. Then I'd go a little bit longer, and within one couple hours session, I learned the presentation. It wasn't perfect. I learned all his jokes. You know, I learned his mannerism. I was his clone. I used to, and then his brother, who was my best mentor. I mean, he was my hero. I copied him. In fact, same mannerisms. I wasn't anything like the guy, but you know, that's how I learned. And then I put my own personality behind it. Found out it was I was more effective using my personality and his concepts. But that's how I learned. Okay, and it took me quite a while to learn it. But as soon as I learned it, here's what I did. I got my 3 distributors together in my little rented apartment, and guess what I taught them? How to do the presentation. Okay, so how many people have you taught? How many of your coaches have you taught how to do an effective health assessment? How many have you taught how to actually do an effective trilogy presentation? Just asking. You want to grow, guys? Who wants to grow in here? Who
Yeah.
wants to? Oh, yeah, I got see 4 or 5 hands going up. That's good.
Everybody.
Okay. So that's the next step. So okay. So let's back up. Got the reasons. Got the strategy. We got a list of names. We know how to approach, and now we know how to present. What's after the presentation? What's the next set of skills? Follow up. Yes. Now, sometimes you don't have to follow up. Okay? You don't have to follow up because the person's ready to get started right then. So don't always assume that you need to do a follow-up. You should ask them if they're ready to go. Okay? Got a lot of movement going on there. Okay. What do I mean by that? So you get done, you just did a health assessment. You find out the person's 30 pounds overweight. They're type 2 diabetic. They don't sleep well. Their joints hurt. And you find out that they've gained that 30 pounds over the last 3 years. Should that person go on our program?
Of course.
Yeah. So when I start taking that health assessment, what do you think I'm thinking? This person's going to be a client. This person's a client. I'm treating them like they're a client. It's not a question of whether I know I can help them. I'm so rock solid in my belief in this because I've helped lots of people get healthy that there's no question in my mind. I assume they're getting involved, and I make that assumption and throughout the whole presentation. And at the end, I say this: Susie, listen, you've got some great goals, some great reasons to get healthy, and I'd love to help you achieve them. And here's what I know, Susie. I know that if you follow this program, follow the protocols of the program, you work with me as your coach, we plug you into our optimal health community, and you engage in the habits of health. Not only are we going to get you healthy, that's not going to be a problem, get you to healthy weight, but we're going to help you get healthy for the rest of your life. So Susie, if you're ready to go, I'm ready to coach you. What do you want to do? And guess what? When I say that to people, most of the time they go, yeah, okay. Because I've reminded them of their goals. Remember, what's in it for me? I'm so rock solid. I don't have any question. Oh, maybe they won't be interested. I'm not going to talk to people if I don't think they're going to be interested. Why would I waste my time? And it's the same process I use when I talk to a potential coach. I assume they're going to be interested. Now, one little trick, if you want to add to the trick session here on this, is make sure you're having fun when you're doing those presentations. Make sure you're welcoming them into the community and don't make it all serious business. Okay? All right. So but the follow-up. So if they have to say, well, I got to go talk to my husband, and I'm not going to get into all the how you handle objections and stuff tonight, but if they say, this really looks good, or if let's say you've talked to them about the business, they're not quite ready. You say it really looks good, but I need to think about it. Now, an inexperienced coach will say, great, well, we'll get together. Let's get together later this week. You know what that's called? It's called a loose end. And loose ends, you don't want loose ends. Okay, you don't want to leave a meeting without another one set up. That's a big one. So if you have to do a follow-up, don't leave a meeting without another meeting set up. So you simply say, well, John, listen, it seems to me you've got some interest in coaching, and I understand you want to do a little bit more research. What would be in your best interest is for us to kind of touch base in the next day or two. You're going to have some questions while it's still fresh on your mind. What would work better for you? Would Monday night work better, or would Tuesday work better? Which one of those days is better for you? Either or, right? And then you set up the time. Because if I was to draw a graph, I would tell you that you want to set that follow-up in 24 to 48 hours because they forget 90% of what you told them. Now, it is true some people aren't ready to, like when you. Now, I'm kind of mixing program and coach opportunity, but if you're talking program, then if they're not interested, then you're going to put them on your newsletter and have a drip campaign, and that sort of thing. All those kind of things that we have. But I've never bought into this thing where people need to hear it 15 times or 10 times or 8 times or whatever people say. No, they need to hear it once. Especially for the program, they need to hear it once. So don't misinterpret me. What I'm saying is don't get into the multiple follow-up syndrome when you don't have to. But if you have to, then do a good job at follow-up and drip on them because they may come around 6 months later. They may come around 2 years later if you stay in touch with them and that sort of thing. So that's important. But set up a follow-up 24 to 48 hours because if you don't do it, you will lose them, especially coaches. 24 to 48 hours. Okay. So after you do a follow-up on somebody and they're interested, what's the next step?
Sign up.
Yeah. Well, let's say they're interested. You sign them up. Let's say they're signed up, client or coach. What's the next step? Steps are the same. Let's get them started right.
Yep, support.
So if you're sponsoring coaches and they're not taking off, is it them or you? Okay. Is it them or you? Did we start them right? Did we give them a fire hose of information and scare them to death? Did we tell them way too much information they weren't ready for? That sometimes happens. You get somebody really excited and if we didn't prep them on what not to say, did they go out and talk to their knucklehead brother-in-law who told them, what in the world are you doing that stupid thing for? That probably doesn't happen in New York. That was a joke. It happens everywhere. Right? Right?
Yeah.
Has that ever happened to your coaches? Sponsor somebody and they got discouraged because somebody stole their dream. They took it away from them, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why in the early days as an apprentice, you got to go, you're investing in them in the startup. With a client, we got all these great tools for clients, right? Sign them up for, Optavia texting at, Optavia 30 at 99,000. We got the virtual support videos. We've got the Wednesday night calls. You got your Facebook support groups. Are you plugging your clients into all that stuff? So those virtual support videos are golden, man. Because every single one of them start out, I remember when I was on day 3. My name is so-and-so. I'm an Optavia coach. And I remember when I was on day 3. I knew exactly how I felt. Every one of them says the same thing. So there's a subtle message there. They were on the program. Oh, they became a coach. Maybe I should think about becoming a coach. So you got all these tools. Are you using the tools? Do you have a systematic way that you start up every single client? And do you duplicate that? Is the cookie cutter duplicating down in your organization? Because if it's not, then people are making their own stuff up and it gets diluted, right? Right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's the startup. And then what's after startup?
Integration.
Coaching, ongoing coaching. So here's what I'm going to do, JC. I'm going to share my screen with everybody. Hold on, because I'm going to give you the PowerPoint here. Okay, wait a minute. That's not the one I want to share. What screen are you looking at?
You right now.
Oh, okay, good. Now you should see my Mojave one.
Mojave Desert.
Yep. Okay. So here we go. So, okay, here we go. So those are those, I've talked about 9 of those things. What's their health journey like? Why? What are their reasons? Do they have a goal, a game plan, a strategy? Are they doing their map? Who do they know? Are they inviting? Are they approaching? Are they presenting well? Are they doing the follow-up right? Are they doing the startup right? Are you doing coaching and mentoring? Are they, I'm sorry, number 9 would be ongoing coaching and mentoring, okay? And then, because you got people sponsored that aren't plugged in, right? Are they plugged in? Coaches, for sure. But clients need to plug into our community. And that's what the 10th thing, the 10th thing is, being connected, community, being integrated into our system. So those are, that's the 10 things systematically we look at as a diagnosis. JC, I'm looking at you. They can't see the film, right?
You can see it.
Oh, they can, okay. So then the last thing I want to talk about, if I have the time, can I have another 5 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Is this. Okay, there's another thing that we look at which has to do with, it has to do with some with skills and strategies, but a lot of it has to do with mindset, and we call it SAC. And basically what SAC means is skills and strategies, right? So we covered that in the 10 diagnostics, right? People are stuck. We covered skills and strategies, did we not?
Yes.
Mhm.
Actions and attitudes. What does that mean? Well, you know, I don't know if I can do this business. Dang, I mean, I'm working it so hard, it just doesn't seem to be working for me, you know? And so in the victim triangle, they're playing the victim role, right? They're, woe is me. Well, gee, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, Susie. So you're working the business really hard. Yeah, I just can't seem to be anybody interested. Can I ask you a couple questions? Yeah. So how many people did you actually talk to this week? What did you do in your business this week? Well, I listened to the Monday night call and then the call after the call, and I was on the Wednesday Habits of Health seminar, and then I went to our team call. I put a lot of time on Facebook this week. Okay. You're working in your business, but are you working on your business? How many people did you actually talk to about becoming a client or a coach? Well, I tried to call one person this week. Does this sound familiar?
Yes.
This is called checking the fruit on the tree. So maybe they're not doing anything because they're lazy. Or if they're not doing the action, what else could it be? Well, it could be because they're insecure. They don't know how to do the skills. That's all fixable. It could be some kind of, it could be the third thing here, which is concepts, right? It could be their attitude. They could have, you know, they just light up a room when they leave, you know, they might need to have some people skills, but that's something else to check, right? What's the action? What are they actually doing, and why or why not? So if somebody says, you know, hey, I made 8 calls this week, and I couldn't get anything set up, then you know the diagnostic. What do you do? Well, tell me how you're inviting. Tell me how you're approaching. Let's talk about it. Would you like me to help you with that? Yes. Well, tell me how you're inviting, because if they're calling 8 people and not getting an appointment set up, they're doing something wrong. Or it could be that their attitude, their mindset is off. They could be, they could have lousy posture. They could be begging people. It could be that they get them on the phone and they try to do a call and a presentation and throw up on them. Could be that. But you're not going to know unless you work with them, right? And then the last line here: concepts and commitments. They're all different. There's actually 6 things here, but concepts. We use an acronym SAC to because they're carrying around the SAC. But the concepts can be concepts that are empowering, and they can be concepts that are limiting, right? Right. So a concept that could be limiting would be what? What would that be? What would one be? One of the ones is, I don't want to bother my friends. Right? You ever hear that? So I would think about it. In my mind, that's the last thing I would think you're doing. So when somebody has that orientation, who are they thinking about?
Themselves.
Yeah. And I would just say, that's curious that you should say that, Bill, why would you say you didn't want to bother your friends? What do you mean by that? So we'll explore it, and then he'll realize that it's a really stupid thing to say, right? Right? Or I don't want to be that guy. Then I would say, what guy? What do you mean you don't want to be that guy? Well, you know, the kind of guy that calls up all their friends and tries to get them to do something. Oh. Is that what you think it is that we do? Did I call you up to get you to do something? Is that the way you perceived it? No. Well, what did you perceive when I called you? You were trying to help me. Hello, Bill. Okay. Right? What else could be a limiting concept? Products are too expensive. Right? We have to dig deeper on that. Because I remember Lisa Castro, before she was a global, she was so hung up on the cost of the product. Well, you wouldn't believe that today. I mean, they got an enormous business. That whole Doug Wood business is in their business, okay? They got a huge business, and that's not their only big leg. I mean, they're integrated presidentials. You'd like their business. But I remember helping Lisa get out of her own way with that one. But if we didn't help her get out of her own way, none of those people may be in the business today. Think about it. Think about that. So what other concepts could people hold? I can never be successful.
Time, they don't have enough time.
I don't have enough time. Okay. And then just simply say, well, you know how to handle that time excuse, right? How much time do you think it'll take? Well, let's say analyze, why do you think, how much time are you spending in your business now? So and here's another way, so would that be the only thing that would prevent you from doing this? Yeah, so if we could solve that issue for you, you'd want to do it, right? Yeah. So let's take a look at it. How much time do you think it takes? And how can we become more efficient? See, the thing is, with time, we all have the same hours in the day. Excuse me. And everybody fills their day with all those hours doing something. And what I found is that, it's the old, I forget who said it, that if you wanted something done, I don't know, Eleanor Roosevelt said it actually. If you want something done, go ask a busy person, right? They'll get it done. And so the question really isn't not having enough time, it's allocation of time. And one of the things that can happen with Optavia, if you build a successful business, is you can win time back. You can actually create freedom for yourself. You can buy your life back. Would you like to do that? Would you like to have more free time? Sometimes you have to give something time in order to get time. It's an investment. So it could be that one. It could be, I don't want to make a lot of money. People are hung up about money. There's all kinds of concepts that people have. But if we can identify them, and if we ask the right questions, and we do it in an authentic way where we're really trying to come alongside somebody and help them, and not be the hero coach, not telling them what to do, then we're going to get much better results. Okay. So basically, JC, that's the overview. I can open it for questions. I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you're done,
Dan,
if we're done, we're done.
Dan, could you, if you have time, could you go over the 3 income buckets?
I could.
That would, if you have the time, that would be amazing. That might be a little high level for the other folks.
Yeah, well, it might be high level for some of these folks too, but I can. So right now I'm not sharing my screen, right? I got to pull up. Let me pull up that screen. Okay. Okay, there's really only 2. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. And I still have this one up. Okay. So you see that one, right? Now let's try this one. Okay. Oops. Sorry. Oh, wait a minute. Is that the first one? Yeah, okay. No. That's not, yeah, it is the first one. Okay. All right, wait a minute. Oh, no. I'm missing my first page. It doesn't matter. So there's only there's three areas in our comp plan where you make money. You ready? Our comp plan isn't actually that complicated once you get the gist of it. It's a little more complicated than other comp plans, but the reason it's complicated so it's fair. Is the design of this comp plan was to pay people based on what they did. Okay? So there's three areas that you can earn. Now, what are the three competencies in Optavia?
Fine.
Well, those are all I'm looking for a higher level. So initially we're health coaches, right?
Correct.
And then we become business coaches.
Correct.
And then we become business leaders, right? So the job of the health coach is to acquire and support clients. The job of a business coach is to sponsor and mentor coaches. And the the job of a business leader is to develop organizations of executive directors and lead them. Okay? So when you look at it in the context of those three things, health coach, and business leader, income number one is the income that you earn as a health coach. I have a much more elaborate PowerPoint that I could do this in, but I wasn't really thinking we would do this tonight, but I can walk you through it. But most of you are probably running at least 6,000 in frontline volume. And you get paid on frontline volume based on revenue. Once you're at 6,000 and you're certified, the maximum that you earn is 31%. Okay? Right?
Correct.
Okay, and what's the 333?
1/3 of the bonus.
1/3 of the consistency bonus. So you can pretty much, I actually have a chart that shows this, but you know, if you were, just look at it this way, if you were running 10,000 in frontline volume, you'd make 3,100 plus 333. You'd make $3,400. I'm sorry, $3,433 at $10,000 in volume. So that's the formula, right? The formula is just 31%. Once you're over 6,000, 31%. So you can pretty much figure when you're trying to figure out how much money you want to earn. Like I did this with a global yesterday. We went over her business and she wanted to make 20 grand a month. So I asked her, how much frontline volume do you want to run? Okay. How many clients do you want to support? And she wanted to support around 16, she wanted about 16,000 in frontline volume. You'd be surprised. I think some of you may be surprised to see how much frontline volume some of the higher level pins run. A lot of them run high volume. Okay. So that's the first competency, is being a health coach, and there's an income associated with that competency. And that's the client support income. It's all the stuff, you know, the consistency bonus, CAB bonus, and you know, the client support commissions and client support bonuses. They're all wrapped into that one little sentence there, 31%. As long when you're over 6,000. Now, the next competency is to be a business coach. And a business coach is working with a health coach to teach a health coach what to do. So as a business coach, you don't make money when you sponsor a new coach. You only make money if they make money. If they generate revenue and make money, you make money, right? So you're in it together. That's, by the way, why we have the matching assist bonus with the CAB bonus. If somebody hit their CAB, you get a matching bonus. But that the income that you earn on the team bonuses is on coaches, the revenues that coaches you've sponsored, coaches who are not yet executive directors. So team bonuses are based on what is the volume of those non-executive director teams. So I have a rule of thumb, which is basically, it says, for every non-senior coach that you have, you're going to make about $100. Because remember, I'm not looking at income calculator for a global. The global is also going to get the national bonus and the global bonus. So it's about $100 for somebody who's not yet a senior coach. Because you might have a coach that has a couple, like you look at the end of the month, you have some coaches that are at $900, right? And you're making 12% of that. Okay. You might have a non-senior coach leg that's running $1,700 this month, right? Because you got 2 or 3 people there, none of them are senior coaches. As the ED, you're making 12% on all that revenue. So for a senior coach, I say it's about $200. For a senior coach or higher, it's about $200 a month, and it's about $100 a month for a non-senior coach. And then you get your third of the FIBIC bonus, because you're as a global, for sure, you're a FIBIC, right? As long as you run 6,000 in frontline volume. So that's pretty easy math. And then when you look at generation bonuses, and I actually probably should pull this up for y'all, but the way the generation bonuses work is the wider you go, from 1 to 3 to 5 to 10. And then if we add FIBIC in there, that enables you to go deeper in your organization. So when you have one ED, you can go one generation of ED. So you sponsor me, I become an ED, you make 2.5% on my group volume. When I break an ED, I make 2.5% of their volume. You don't make anything on their volume unless you're integrated or unless you're a national. Then you make that. When you are a national, integrated national, you get paid through 3 generations. When you're a global, 4 generations. When you are a integrated global or presidential, you get through 5 generations. And when you're integrated presidential, you get paid through 6 generations. So, you're making 2.5% on Gen 1, 2.5% on Gen 2, 2% on Gen 3, 2% on Gen 4, and 1% on Gen 5, 1.5% on Gen 5, and 1.5% on Gen 6. And then also as a global, you make a national bonus of 0.5% and a global bonus of 0.5%. So in reality, if I am running $20,000 in group volume, that's my frontline volume, and then all of the volume of the people I've sponsored who are not yet EDs, that's my group 0 volume. That's 20,000. And you're a global, you're going to make 2.5% plus another 0.5% plus another 0.5%, 3.5% on that business. So you make $700 on my team if you sponsor me. Now, if I've broken other EDs, you're going to make more money, right? But I'm just saying on that note. So when I look at averaging this out for a maturing organization of a global with EDs in their organization, not just frontline, but in depth, I figure it's about $500 a month. Okay, and the average ED generation is about 15,000. So if you sponsor somebody that squeaks over executive director with 6,003 volume, obviously their generation volume is 6,000. But typically, they've got some people sponsored, you got some senior coaches, you got some managers, and they're running more than 6,000 in frontline volume typically. So the average is it's more like 16,000. Okay, so to figure out what you're going to earn, let's say this is a global that wants to earn $20,000 a month. Okay. And let's say this global wants to service, probably, 50, 60 clients, run 12,000 in front, probably 40 clients, run 12,000 in frontline volume. they'd make 31% up at 333. They're making, on that bucket of money, they make $4,000. And we're saying that they're going to be a global with 6 frontline EDs. So how many people would they have to sponsor to have 6 frontline EDs? Well, they're going to have, I put in here that they would have a total of 22. Now, and typically, when you have about 12 to 15, basically when you have about, actually when you have about 10 to 12 senior coaches, 10 to 15 senior coaches, you're going to probably wind up with at least 5 EDs. But I said in this case, this person has sponsored 22 people that are active. 8 of them are not senior coaches. 8 of them are senior coaches, and 6 of them are EDs. Okay. So when we look at the ones that aren't senior coaches, the money you would make, oh, not EDs, the money you would make would be right here. 200 times 8 senior coaches would be 200, would be 1,600. 8 non-senior coaches is 800, plus your FIBIC bonus. That bucket would produce 2733. So to make 20,000, we're making 4 and 27, or $6,800 is going to be consumed in these 2 bonuses. So that means we got to build an organization. How many EDs do we need to have in order to produce this income? So, okay, 6 of them are frontline, right? I need to generate $13,000 of income through my executive director organization. So if I figure $500, that's about 26 EDs. I mean, 6 are going to be frontline and 20 in debt. And that would produce that income. I don't know if I went, some of you might have gotten that, some of you may not have gotten that, but that's how, if I sit down with somebody and say, well, I want to make 10,000 a month, I could pretty much figure out. In the beginning, if I was to illustrate, and I had 3 buckets, and I said, this is the client bucket, this is the business coach bucket, and this is the business leader bucket. In the beginning, most people make the majority of their income on the client bucket. And the business coach income is generally, from people that are running at least 6,000, but this is generally the smaller of the 3. But the bucket that really grows is the ED generation bucket. And that's kind of what you focus on. And JC, that might have been a little too advanced without showing all the other stuff, but that's how you figure it out.
But you know what, the vision that they all have for what they want to do December and next year is advanced. Well, you think about that. What I'm looking at is, okay, so some of you are sitting here with 1 or 2 EDs. Maybe you don't have any EDs. Let's say you're sitting here as a regional and you have 2 EDs and you have 1 in debt. Well, can you find 23 people in the next year that'd like to make $2,000 to $3,000 a year? They don't have to be personally sponsored. You'd have to find 4 more personally sponsored. But as you're working in depth in your organization, can you inspire and work with, that's why I just go back to the cookie cutter. That's why the cookie cutter has to be pure and simple so people can plug in and duplicate the same things over and over and over again. Love it.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions?
Anybody have a question for Dan based on what he just talked about? So Dan, he's basically, I mean, the income buckets are the same, but he's saying if you're not a global or close to a global, how far off, how far off? I mean, obviously frontline volume is the same, but maybe the senior coach, legs and
Well, this the second one is the same.
Right.
The second one is the same. So the only thing I've added is the 0.5 percentage, and it depends. Look, I have, most of us have. Well, look at it this way. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but let me ask you: is there anybody in the room that has not yet broken an ED, and their group volume is over 20,000 a month? Anybody? Raise your hand.
Over what?
20,000 a month. You don't have any EDs, It's your group volume. When you look up at GV in your back office, does anybody here have group volume of over 20,000? That if you don't have any EDs. Anybody? You got it, because the average is like 16. There's somebody. How much?
We got some people like that that are close to that.
Okay, you know what?
Ask an easier question.
Hold on a minute. Okay, wait a minute, here we go. Hang on. Okay. Okay. All right, I just want to show, I'll show you this slide here. Okay. So that's when you, this is a kind of a simple way of looking at how much do I want to make from income one, okay? Okay. And then this is what that annualized income would be. This is just for supporting clients, okay? Now, we're all familiar with this slide. This basically says in the comp plan, you make cash flow by trading time for money, meaning that the more clients you add, the more money you'll make, but it's essentially temporary. Whereas if you build an in-depth organization over time, your income from your organization increases and becomes actually bigger. So, I went the wrong way. So it looks something like this, right? So you ramp your income up. It's one of the great things about our comp plan is somebody has a financial need, they can really attack it by adding clients. But over time, if you're sponsoring coaches, your income from your coaches is going to exceed that from your phone by a mile, okay? And so the comp plan in the early stages kind of looks like this. Right? Now, when we go to, when we look at, okay, so this basically says here you are as a business coach, you're an ED, and you've got a manager team right here, okay? On that manager team, you make 6% on all that revenue. So the manager has some frontline business. You've got a senior coach that's got some frontline business. But in the way that you know that is just look at this chart. If you are an executive director with a manager, you're earning 6% on that manager's business. So if we go to that manager's business, what we're saying here, I mean, this guy, let's say this is $1,800 in volume. You know, it's a senior coach, big, you know, not a squeak over senior coach, but somebody growing. And let's say this person here is a manager, and let's assume that they've got in frontline volume 20,000. You got 3,800 or 22,000. You got $3,800 in revenue right here. You make 6% of that. Okay. Now, when you look at, that's the second bucket. So, okay, so let's move on here. We're gonna get back here. So, so when we look at what's an executive director group volume, right? Well, executive director group volume, or generation zero, is all of the frontline clients, all the clients that this ED has, all the coaches that they have, their revenue, and all the revenues of their clients. All of the coaches who are not yet EDs, right? So then when somebody becomes an ED, you got ED1, ED2, that generation volume goes with them, okay? So when I said you get paid, the wider you go, the deeper you're able to tap into your organization. So if you just have 5 frontline EDs, you're not going to make that much money because you're only getting generation 1. But as you go down in revenue, you get more. So watch. So here's a global, an integrated global with 5 EDs. And if the average volume was 15,000 in their group 0 or their non-ED volume, they'd make 2.5%. Now, if you're a national, you're making 2.5% too, but you just make it on 3 ED legs, which would be 45,000. But they sponsor some people. Let's say those 5 each sponsored, a total of 9. So on that second generation of revenue, and their non-executive director groups, you're making that's $135,000 in volume. You're making 2.5% on that. Let's say they each sponsor 1. Well, that's another $135,000 on the third. Now you make 2% on that. Let's say they each sponsor 1 ED. You're making 2% on that one, and let's say those 9 sponsor 8. You have 120 on that one. You're making 1.5 because a integrated global gets paid down through 5. It was just, if this person wasn't integrated, they would not make this $1,800 on generation 5 because they wouldn't qualify for it. Okay. And then you also have to look at, so in that example, that's monthly income of almost 12.5 just on the generation bonuses. And then the way the elite bonuses work is you get paid 0.5% down to the second person in a line that has the same title. So typically, you're going to have people, more people hit national than there are that hit global who hit presidential. So each level as you go, you have more ED legs, you're going to be able to tap deeper into your organization. But on your entire business, you're making up to 1.5% more. So that's all this is saying. Is let's say, like presidential bonus, like for example, in my business, I sponsor Brian Dollinger, and he's a integrated presidential. Troy, his brother, is a presidential. The Millers are down here as integrated presidentials, right? But my presidential bonus on that leg stops here. However, in the scheme of things here, that I'm able to tap down through 6 generations. So that's where I earn money on those teams down below me. Yeah. So that's just like, so anyway, essentially what this is saying is that with that group volume there's another 1%. So that's 628,000 group volume. That's another $6,300 a month in income. So the back end of the comp plan, meaning the business leader income, is almost 19 grand a month. So when you add them up, this ED was making 4,000 on their frontline volume of 12, making 2,500 on their non-executive director teams, and making almost 19,000 on their executive team. This person's making 300 grand a year. Oh, here, now let me show you what an large integrated national director, integrated presidential could be making. So on generation 1, they'd have 10 EDs at 15,000 on average, 150,000. They make 2.5% on that. Let's say they each sponsored 2, there'd be 300,000 on the second generation. That's 7,500, 600 on the third, 900,000 on the fourth, 900,000 on the fifth, and 450,000 on the sixth. The generation bonuses alone on this team, and that team would have 100, 230 EDs on it. There's 61,000 a month. And then when you add in the elite bonuses and everything else, that person is making probably in the neighborhood of 80 to 90,000 a month. It definitely would be 7 figures a year. It's 83,000 a month to make $1 million a year. That's, there's a lot of power if you understand the comp plan. And, you guys are EDs. I just went into really heavy duty, big picture stuff. But, at some point in your career, you make a decision. Is this a hobby that pays well, or do I really want to take it serious? And do I want to go out and make a difference? And that just doesn't happen by happenstance. That's based on a decision. And then you back that decision with a game plan and work, and you get better at each one of those skill sets. I mean, you wouldn't go to a surgeon that had a lousy skill set using a scalpel, right?
Right.
Or if he couldn't sew you back up very well, you wouldn't go there either, because you can be some major problems. So you always want to be improving your personal skill sets, but then when you're working with people, is you give them information and you train them at the lowest common denominator where they'll have success. So you don't just tell them, just in case information. It's just in time information. That's all part of the art of doing this. But you guys, listen, you're having a great event there. I know you're going to knock them dead tomorrow. And the thing is, be there for your leaders. So you want to be there tomorrow for the team. Don't be thinking just about building my team, build the team meaning the big team. Everybody is related in this. It's not one team better than another team. So welcome everybody, and people will watch what you say, and as we look to the next year, we've never had a better climate than we have right now. You've got great leadership, and JC, thank you for organizing this up there, and being a leader and saying we need this in this area, and taking the mantle of doing that. You did that yourself, and look at how many people benefit for that. So thank you for doing this. So we all good?
That was perfect.
Awesome.
Perfect. We recorded it. So Dan, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us, and I think you really helped us set the tone for them all. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. All right, guys. Have fun tomorrow. You're going to have a good time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Dan. Thanks.
Yep.